There was a fork in the microwave. Not on a plate. Not wrapped in a napkin. Just sitting inside the microwave, alone, spinning slowly on the glass turntable like it belonged there. That's how my morning started. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened the door, pulled it out, and burned my fingers because apparently it had been microwaved for over 4 minutes. Metal. For 4 minutes. The whole thing could have exploded. My apartment could have gone up in flames, and maybe she would have finally been happy. Because according to her, I ruined everything anyway. She wasn't in the kitchen or the living room. Her keys were gone. Her charger was still plugged into the wall. Coffee machine was on, full pot untouched. I texted her. Me. Hey, did you microwave a fork? Read. No reply. 3 hours later, she came back like nothing happened. Walked past me in silence. No shoes. Just her vintage Wyoming hoodie and some guy's flannel pants that definitely weren't mine. Her hair was still damp. I asked her where she went, and she said, out. I asked what that meant, and she just tilted her head at me like I was the weird one. Then she asked, do you have plans this weekend? Why? Because I don't want you around. Boom. Just like that. Not angry. Not sarcastic. Just transactional. Like she was unsubscribing from my presence. I swallowed hard. It's your birthday this weekend. Exactly, she said. And what I want this year is simple. I want you to disappear. She poured herself a glass of oat milk like she hadn't just throat-punched my soul. Sat on the couch. Turned on some true crime podcast about husbands who vanish. I just stood there, staring at her, waiting for the punchline. But it didn't come. There were no tears. No, I'm sorry, I snapped. Just a long, slow sip of milk and her blank eyes avoiding mine like I was an expired receipt. I should have yelled. I should have thrown something. I should have told her she was cruel. But I didn't. Because I'm a coward. A whiny, confused, emotionally constipated coward who had no idea how we got here. So I left. I packed a bag, grabbed my laptop, kissed our dog behind her back, and left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't even leave a note. I just walked out like I'd been fired from my own life. And that night, at a cheap roadside motel with a vending machine that ate my quarters, I got an email. No subject line. No text. Just an attachment. I clicked. It was a photo. Her. And him. Not smiling. Just entangled. Like my existence was never even part of the equation. The fork in the microwave suddenly made sense. She wanted it to blow up. She wanted me to blow up. And now? Now I was just a footnote in her story. But I wasn't going to stay a footnote for long. I stared at the photo for a long time. I didn't zoom in, didn't swipe, didn't download it. Just stared. Her phone must have glitched. Or maybe she meant to send it to him, and I was just still saved as Babe Red Heart in her contacts from the time when she used to love me. Or at least pretended to. The motel room was quiet. Except for the ice machine rattling down the hallway and the sound of someone screaming at Wheel of Fortune in the next room. I'd been there for 4 hours. Just me, a bag of chili cheese Fritos, and a draft email I kept rewriting. Something between a goodbye and a nuclear burn. But I never sent it. Instead, I went to her Instagram. She hadn't posted anything in weeks. Her last post was a carousel of flowers and blurry brunch plates with a caption that said soft era cherry blossom sparkles, like that meant something. No tags. No people. Just a latte with foam hearts and a chair across from her that I now realize probably wasn't empty. I opened Venmo. She sent someone named Milo Camera with Flash, $320 with a peach emoji and the note. Thank you for making me look good, winky face. That was 2 days ago. I'd never heard of a Milo in my life. I clicked on his profile. Private. Profile pic, some guy with 2 white teeth holding a camera. I refreshed the photo in the email again. She wasn't smiling in it. She looked exhausted, like she'd been crying, or maybe trying too hard not to. Her mascara was smudged, and she was wearing the same hoodie she came home in earlier that day. Except in the photo, she was curled into someone's arms. Arms I didn't recognize. That's when it hit me. This wasn't new. This wasn't some birthday weekend betrayal. This had been happening. Quietly. Carefully. Possibly for months. And I'd missed it. Because I was too busy walking on eggshells around her moods. Too busy defending myself for things I hadn't done to notice the things she had. I called my best friend Wyatt. He picked up on the third ring with a mouthful of something and said, "Dude, if you're calling me from jail, I'll drive, but I'm not bailing you out." "I think she's cheating," I said. He stopped chewing. "Think. I have a photo." There was a pause. Of her? With someone? Yeah. You okay? No. Want me to come over? I'm at a motel in Laramie. Another pause. Then, Jesus, dude. You really disappeared. We talked for another hour. Mostly him telling me I wasn't crazy, that I'd done everything right, that Laura had been off for months, that people change and sometimes it's not your fault. All the things people say when they're trying to keep you from drinking bleach. But then he said something that stuck with me. Didn't she change her phone password like 3 months ago? Out of nowhere. I had forgotten about that. She used to be fine with me playing Spotify on her phone. Suddenly, she started flipping the screen over when she left the room. Changed her iCloud password. Switched to silent mode at night. Started keeping her phone under her pillow. Said it was to help her sleep. Now it all made sense. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I drove back home the next morning before she could. I knew she'd be out all day again. She said she was going to the mountains to reset. I didn't care. I wasn't there to talk. I was there to look. I waited until she left a location tag on her story, Little Bear Ridge, and that's when I made my move. I parked 4 blocks from our apartment. I still had my key. Everything looked normal when I entered. Her yoga mat was by the door. Coffee still warm in the mug. Spotify playing a playlist called Nostalgic Nights. I tiptoed to the bedroom and opened the drawer she always kept locked with one of those little brass journal padlocks. Guess what? She forgot to lock it. Inside was a burner phone. Who still uses burner phones in 2025? Apparently my wife. I powered it on. No password. There were 3 text threads pinned to the top. 1 Milo. 2. Room 308 sweat droplets. 3. Unknown number, only heart. Calm. That's when my heart dropped. I didn't just marry a liar. I married someone with a whole other life. The phone was still warm in my hands. My palms were slick with sweat, but I couldn't let go. It felt like holding a live wire, something that could fry me if I blinked wrong. Her burner phone. Her secret life. It was all there, laid out in sterile text bubbles and half-deleted threads. The last message sent just 3 hours before I came home. Same spot. Bring the camera. No more hiding. Then a pin dropped on the map, Little Bear Ridge. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to my own breathing. There was something about seeing betrayal typed out so casually that made it worse than hearing it screamed. Words on a screen felt planned. Chosen. Like she'd thought about them. Maybe even smiled while writing them. I opened the thread with Milo camera with flash. His messages were smug, effortless. You looked perfect yesterday. He's still around? Don't worry. He'll fade out soon. They always do. My heart pounded so hard my vision blurred. I scrolled up, through weeks of texts, late-night check-ins, cryptic emojis, and hotel room numbers hidden in photo captions. She'd sent him pictures of our home office, my desk in the background, calling it her space now. One message stopped me cold. He still doesn't get it. He thinks I'm just tired of him. If only he knew. If only I knew what. I dropped the phone like it burned me and stumbled out of the room. Whiskey, our dog, patted over, tilting his head like he could smell my panic. I crouched down beside him, burying my face in his fur. What did I do wrong, buddy? I whispered, voice cracking. He wagged his tail once, unsure. I wanted to storm to that ridge, to find her, to catch her in the act. But something in me froze. Maybe it was fear. Maybe I didn't want to see it. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. I tried to think rationally. If she wanted me gone, fine. She'd get her wish. But not the way she thought. I packed a bag, my laptop, a few shirts, the charger, and a notepad I used for freelance copy drafts. Then I took one last look around our apartment. The life we built together looked fake now, like a stage set left behind after a play. Every photo on the wall felt like a lie. Every souvenir from our road trips looked staged for someone else's story. As I walked out, I heard the soft ping of a notification from the burner phone still lying on the bed. Against every ounce of self-preservation, I went back. The screen lit up with a message from Milo, room 308. Don't be late this time. I memorized it. Then I drove. Little Bear Ridge was 2 hours away, tucked behind the kind of pine forest people write postcards about. It used to be where we camped when we were first dating. The irony wasn't lost on me. I parked a quarter-mile from the lodge, left my car by a creek, and walked the rest of the way through mud and pine needles. It was past sunset now, and the cabins glowed faintly through the trees. I spotted her car immediately, same dent in the bumper, same vanity plate she'd begged for years ago, Love L. I should have turned back, but I didn't. Through one of the cabin windows, I saw movement. Shadows. 2 figures. Her laugh. It was soft, but I'd have known it anywhere. She said something I couldn't hear. Then a man's hand reached up and brushed her hair back. She leaned in. He kissed her, and I swear the world tilted sideways. I pressed my forehead against a tree and tried to breathe. Everything in me wanted to rush in, to scream, to make it stop. But I didn't move. I couldn't. I stood there until the cabin light went off, and all that was left was the hum of crickets and the sound of my own heartbeat. When I finally walked back to my car, something inside me felt different. Hollow but sharp, like grief had hardened into something else. I didn't text her. I didn't call Wyatt. I didn't even cry. I just sat in the driver's seat, watching her car through the trees. That's when my phone buzzed. A message from her. "Laura, don't wait up. I'm staying with a friend." I laughed out loud in the dark. A raw, broken laugh that didn't sound like mine. That night, under the flickering cabin lights of Little Bear Ridge, I decided I was done being the ghost in my own story. She wanted me to disappear? Fine. I would vanish, but not empty-handed. Because tomorrow morning, she'd wake up to find that I had quietly erased myself from her world and taken the one thing she never thought she'd lose. When I got home the next day, the first thing I did was open the window by her side of the bed. I didn't know why. Maybe it was symbolic, like letting the last trace of her drift out. I didn't touch anything else. I didn't yell. I didn't write a dramatic goodbye letter. I just sat in the kitchen with a notepad and made a checklist. Grant's vanishing act, to-do list. Cancel joint gym membership. Transfer savings. Pack essentials. Leave her what she thinks she wants. Nothing. Take the one thing she never expected. Number 5 took a while to figure out. At first, I thought about taking the dog. But she barely acknowledged whiskey anymore. Too much shedding, she said. He smells like stress. Whatever that means. Then I thought about the storage unit we shared, the one with all our stuff from before we moved in together. There was a box there she'd probably forgotten about. A box full of Polaroids, notebooks, and an external hard drive labeled "Do Not Erase." She said it was her someday project, a memoir or poetry or whatever dream she was working on before corporate life numbed her. She loved that drive. She once told me it had everything she'd ever written. Stuff from college, early screenplays, personal diary entries. And that's what I took. Not out of spite, not to delete it, just because it was the only piece of her that ever felt real. Before Milo, before she became someone I didn't recognize, I packed my things methodically. Nothing dramatic. No missing couch cushions or slash clothes. I even vacuumed. I left my key in the bowl by the door where we used to toss change and forgotten receipts. Then I placed the burner phone right next to it. Open, screen on, messages displayed. Let her feel the silence I'd felt. And then I left. For real this time. No forwarding address. No goodbye. No trace. I checked into a short-term rental under my middle name, Ellis. It was a place with bad art and cheap lighting, but it was quiet. And quiet was all I wanted. For the first few days, I stayed off social media. I turned off my phone. I didn't check email. The world could burn, and I wouldn't smell smoke. Then, on the 4th night, I got curious. I opened her Instagram. It was gone. Not private. Not inactive. Deleted. That was the first sign that the panic had set in. I waited until the weekend passed. Then, Monday morning, I turned my phone back on. 23 missed calls. 5 voicemails. 17 texts. All from her. The first voicemail was just silence. The second was her breathing. Shaky. Then she hung up. The third, her voice cracked. "Where are you? What is this?" The last one, different tone. Less confused. More afraid. "Grant, this isn't funny. This is cruel. I don't know what game you're playing, but I swear if you don't come home, click." I didn't reply. Instead, I called my bank and flagged our joint account. I didn't clean it out. That would have looked petty. I just locked my half. Froze the credit cards. Switched my password on our shared streaming services just to watch her squirm. Then I called Wyatt. "She's spiraling," I said. He snorted. "Took long enough. What now?" I want her to know what it feels like. To live in a world where nothing answers back. Where silence screams louder than any fight. He paused. "You're gonna break her." "No," I said quietly. "I'm just letting her hear the echo of her own choices." That same night, I logged into the hard drive. Her writing was raw, painful, honest. There were passages about loss, regret, love she didn't think she deserved. One line stood out. Written 3 years ago. If I ever ruin something good, I hope the other person leaves without slamming the door, just disappears. That would kill me more. Well, wish granted. It's strange how quickly a person's voice changes when they lose control. The same woman who used to talk to me like I was an inconvenience was now leaving voicemails that sounded like prayers. I didn't listen to all of them at first. I told myself I was over it, that I didn't care, that her panic wasn't my problem anymore. But at 2 in the morning, in that lifeless rental apartment with peeling wallpaper and a fridge that hummed like it had secrets, I gave in. I pressed play. Her voice trembled. Grant, if you're listening to this, please just call me. I don't care where you are. A pause. I just need to know you're okay. I almost laughed. Now she cared about whether I was okay? After telling me to disappear? After making me feel like a ghost standing in my own living room? I turned the volume down, laid the phone on my chest, and stared at the ceiling until the morning light cut through the blinds like knife blades. By Tuesday, she had emailed my freelance clients. I knew because one of them forwarded me her message, asking if everything was all right. She'd written, "Hi, this is Grant's wife. He's been missing since last week. I'm really worried. If you've heard from him, please let me know." I imagined her typing that, hair messy, eyes red, fingers shaking. She probably thought she was playing the victim now. Poor abandoned Laura, deserted by her sweet, loyal husband. I almost admired the performance. But what she didn't know was that I was watching her unravel in real time. I hadn't deleted our shared Google account. Her phone was still synced. I could see her searches, her drafts, her deleted photos. Within 3 days, she'd looked up how to file a missing person report and what to do if your spouse vanishes. Then, later that same night, can you track an iPhone that's turned off? It was satisfying in the most bitter, shameful way. The kind of satisfaction that leaves a bad taste even while it warms you. On Thursday, something new appeared in her drafts folder. It wasn't an email or a note. It was a Word document titled Confession. I opened it, my hands trembling, half afraid it was some melodramatic goodbye note. But no, it was worse. It started with, "If he ever finds out, I'm ruined." Then it detailed everything she'd done in the last 6 months. The lies. The stolen cash from our joint account she'd been transferring to another card. The weekend trips with Milo that she'd disguised as company training retreats. And the worst part? She'd mentioned a plan. I told Milo I can't keep doing this. He says I don't have to, that there are ways to move forward without Grant around. He says no one would suspect me if it looks like he just left. I stopped breathing. The cursor blinked at the end of that sentence like it was daring me to keep reading. I scrolled further, but the rest was fragmented, as if she'd been interrupted. The file ended mid-paragraph, with the words, "He's too predictable. If I can," and that was it. Nothing more. No date. No signature. Just an incomplete thought hanging there like a loaded gun. That was when the cold realization hit me. She hadn't just wanted me gone. She'd planned for me to vanish. And I'd walked right into it. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to go to the police, show them the file, tell them everything. But what was I supposed to say? "Hi, my wife might have been plotting my disappearance, but I beat her to it." They'd think I was insane. Or worse, guilty. So I stayed hidden. Silent. Invisible. I became the ghost she wanted. But not dead. Watching. That weekend, she filed the missing person report. I know because I saw the PDF copy in her emails. She wrote that I was emotionally unstable, that I'd been under stress, that I may have done something drastic. My blood boiled reading it. She wasn't just playing the victim now. She was rewriting the story. She didn't know I'd taken the hard drive. She didn't know I'd seen her confession. And she sure as hell didn't know I still had access to our security camera feed. When she came home that night, she went straight to the bedroom and started tearing through drawers. I watched her find the missing phone, the open messages, the note I left that simply said, "You got your wish. I'm gone." She sank to the floor, hands shaking, eyes wide. Then she did something that froze me entirely. She called Milo. I turned up the volume. Her voice cracked. "He's gone, Milo. For real. He's actually gone." He laughed. I could hear him through the speaker. "Good. That's what you wanted, right?" But she didn't answer. She just covered her mouth like she'd finally realized she'd wished for the wrong thing. And that's when I knew whatever game they thought they were playing was about to turn on them. Because I wasn't done disappearing yet. I was just getting started. It started with a single knock on the door. Not loud. Not rushed. Just one steady knock, soft enough to make her doubt she heard it, but deliberate enough to freeze her where she stood. I watched it happen on the hallway cam. She had just stepped out of the shower, hair wrapped in a towel, a wine glass half full on the counter. She'd been drinking more. I could tell by the trash bags, bottles she hadn't bothered to hide anymore. The woman who once color-coded the recycling now tossed everything in together like rules didn't matter anymore. The knock came again. One knock, then silence. She walked slowly to the door, barefoot, dripping, holding her breath like a child expecting a monster. She didn't call out. She didn't ask, "Who is it?" She just stood there, staring through the peephole. Nothing. She opened the door anyway. Nobody. But on the welcome mat, our old one that said "Good vibes only," God, the irony, was an envelope, cream-colored, her name printed across the front in handwriting she hadn't seen in over a month. Mine. She didn't pick it up right away. She stood over it like it might detonate. Then, cautiously, she bent, grabbed it, and backed into the apartment like she was handling contraband. I watched from my laptop in the motel 3 towns over. No lights. Just me, the glow of the screen, and a silence that felt thicker every day. She opened the envelope slowly, eyes darting back toward the door, as if I might be waiting in the hallway. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten, no signature. "You buried me before I was dead. But corpses don't stay quiet forever. Happy birthday, Laura." She dropped the letter like it bit her. I rewound the footage 3 times. Watched her lips tremble. Watched her knees buckle. Watched her grip the edge of the table as she tried to catch her breath. That was the moment she broke. Her illusion, this fantasy where I'd just walked away, vanished out of shame or heartbreak, crumbled. Because now she knew, I hadn't disappeared. I let her think I did. And worse, I was watching. She tore through the apartment after that, pacing like an animal, checking every room, calling Milo over and over. He didn't pick up. She tried texting, but all her messages were green now. I'd seen to that. Milo was gone too. Not vanished like me. No, Milo had simply gone silent. Probably because of the email I sent him the day before. From an anonymous account. No threats, no drama. Just 5 attachments, screenshots, bank statements, GPS data, and a still frame of him kissing her outside room 308. No caption. No context. Just proof. And a final image. The Google search result for adultery clause in Colorado divorce law. Let him stew in that. Laura called my mother that night. That part shocked me. They hadn't spoken in years. Laura always said my mom wasn't warm enough. I watched the call light up in my synced call log. 10 minutes long. I couldn't hear what was said, but I didn't need to. Mom texted me afterward. She sounds scared. "What are you doing?" I didn't reply. The next morning, I had breakfast at a diner that smelled like burnt toast and forgotten dreams. I ordered eggs and didn't eat them. I just stared at my phone, flipping through the camera feeds like a ritual. Our place was still. Laura was asleep on the couch, wrapped in the blanket I used to use when I was sick. The TV was playing some late-night sitcom rerun, the kind with fake laughter that echoed into emptiness. Then her phone rang. Milo's name flashed across the screen. She answered it fast, like her life depended on it. "I got your letter," she snapped. "Why the hell would you do that?" His voice was muffled, but I caught pieces. "What letter?" "I didn't send anything." Her expression changed instantly. Confusion first, then dread. "If you didn't, then who?" She hung up. I smiled. She finally understood. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. About dragging her into the same paranoia she'd sentenced me to. The late-night pacing. The second-guessing. The feeling of being watched. Of not knowing what comes next. She wanted me gone. And now? She couldn't escape me. Because I had become the ghost she created, only this one left evidence. Breadcrumbs. Echoes. Quiet reminders that she doesn't control the narrative anymore. And I wasn't finished. I used to think revenge was loud. Screaming. Confrontation. Slammed doors. Flying objects. The kind of drama you see in movies where people shout clever one-liners before walking away in slow motion. But in reality, revenge is quiet. It's surgical. It's a process of erosion, not explosion. A slow, steady removal of every certainty in someone's life until they're left staring at a version of themselves they don't recognize. That's what I was doing to Laura. She just didn't know how deep it went. After the envelope incident, she started unraveling faster than I expected. First it was the locks. I watched her change them the next morning. She called a guy off TaskRabbit, paid extra for a rush job. She looked over her shoulder 3 times in the hallway. She even asked the locksmith if he could install a second bolt that locked from the inside only. I made a note of that, not because I needed to break in, but because it told me exactly where her fear was focused. Then she started pulling away from work. I saw the email. She told her manager she was taking a short mental health sabbatical. I knew that was a lie. Laura never took time off, not even for our anniversary. But now she couldn't think straight long enough to hold a meeting. Couldn't trust herself to focus on anything but the idea that I might show up at any moment. But I wasn't coming to her. I was just going to let her come apart in her own reflection. And then I sent the second envelope. This time, I didn't leave it at the door. I mailed it from a random post office 3 states away. It arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Inside was a single item, a black and white photo. Not a new one, an old one. It was a Polaroid from the early days of our relationship. The first time we ever camped at Little Bear Ridge. She was laughing, her hair tangled in the wind, holding a cup of cocoa and flipping me off with the other hand. A private moment. No one else could have taken that picture. But I had the original. I'd taken it. And in red ink across the bottom, I'd written, "You buried us here. Remember?" I wasn't trying to scare her. I was trying to remind her who she used to be before all this. Before Milo. Before the lies. Before she turned love into a liability. I thought maybe some part of her would snap back into place. Maybe she'd realize this didn't have to be war. Instead, she went to the police. I watched her walk into the station. She was wearing sunglasses, hair in a bun, oversized hoodie like she was trying not to be seen. She stayed inside for an hour. I don't know exactly what she told them, but the next day, a detective called my old number. Left a voicemail. "Mr. Prescott, we received a welfare inquiry from your spouse. Please contact us if you receive this." I didn't return the call. The truth was, I was very much alive. And Laura was still lying. Because the next thing she did changed everything. She contacted a divorce attorney. I only knew because she used our old shared laptop to look him up, and she never cleared her browser history. Sloppy. Desperate. But here's the twist. She didn't want a normal divorce. No. She wanted to file under abandonment. She was going to try to take everything. The apartment. The dog. My remaining half of the savings. My share of the condo we co-owned with my brother. She wanted to build a case that I had mentally deteriorated, and that she'd endured years of emotional instability and disengagement. It was sick. She was rewriting me as a villain in a story where she was the abandoned wife, left to pick up the pieces of a failed marriage ruined by a man who just couldn't love her the right way. And she was getting bold again. Milo must have resurfaced. I saw his car parked 3 blocks away, late at night. She thought I wouldn't notice. She thought I wasn't watching anymore. That's when I made my move. I booked a session with the best divorce lawyer in Denver. Not just any lawyer, the one her company used for corporate litigation. I paid for a consultation in cash. Quiet. Clean. I gave him everything. The burner phone records, the affair, the confession document, the financial theft, the apartment feed backups, screenshots of her fake wellness emails to HR, the Venmo payments, the hotel room charges on our joint credit card she thought I never checked. He looked at me and said, "You've been documenting this?" I nodded. "Since she told me to disappear." His smile was subtle, cold. "Then we're not just going to defend you," he said. "We're going to vaporize her case." 2 days later, Laura was served papers. Not the kind she expected. She read them on the steps outside her office. Then she threw up into a trash can. A coworker came over to help her. She pushed them away. Because now she knew. She'd spent all that time trying to erase me, trying to paint me as broken, unworthy, disposable. Only to realize I'd kept everything. And now it was her world that was about to fall apart. Everything she'd built. It was paper. And I had just lit the match. The courtroom wasn't dramatic. There were no gasps. No crying fits. No slamming of fists or bailiffs holding people back. It wasn't like the movies. It was colder. Colder because it was calm. Because the woman who once looked me in the eye and told me to disappear now couldn't even meet my gaze across the room. She sat next to her attorney in a dark blazer I'd never seen before, lips pressed into a hard, controlled line. She looked smaller than I remembered, like something had been hollowed out of her. Maybe it had. My lawyer laid everything out methodically. No fire. No rage. Just receipts. Facts. Time-stamped records. Financial discrepancies. Her missing burner phone and its conveniently detailed call logs. Security footage. Screenshots. The Word doc titled Confession, with her name on it and her signature at the bottom. That was the moment her expression cracked. The judge read silently for what felt like years, then asked her lawyer if they'd like to respond. He leaned over, whispered something in her ear. She blinked, swallowed hard, then nodded. They didn't fight it. Not a single rebuttal. The ruling was swift. My name cleared. Joint assets restored and split fairly. Condo share returned. No alimony. No property battle. She didn't even contest custody of Whiskey. She just let him go, like everything else. It should have felt like a victory. But it didn't. Not really. It felt like release. Like someone had cut the anchor from around my neck. Like I could finally breathe without checking the air for poison. After the hearing, she caught me outside the courthouse. I could have ignored her. I should have. But I didn't. Maybe I needed to hear what she had to say. Maybe some broken part of me still hoped for clarity. She didn't cry. She just stood there, shivering under the gray sky, and said, "You were never the villain." I just didn't want to be the failure. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "You didn't fail. You quit." That was it. We went our separate ways on the courthouse steps. She walked toward a rideshare and never looked back. I walked to my car, opened the door, and let Whiskey jump into the passenger seat like he'd been waiting for me the whole time. We drove north. Windows down. No destination. Just motion. Eventually, I found a small cabin near Flathead Lake in Montana. Bought it with some of the freelance money I'd saved and what I won back from the divorce. It wasn't big. It wasn't fancy. But it was mine. Every nail. Every floorboard. Mine. I started sleeping through the night again. Cooking my own food. Fixing up the place. I built a desk from scratch and started writing for myself. Not clients. Not campaigns. Just me. One morning, I woke up to find Whiskey barking at something outside. I stepped onto the porch and saw a deer at the edge of the trees. It didn't run. Just stared back at me, unbothered. The air smelled like pine and coffee and quiet. And that's when it hit me. I was gone. Gone from the life she poisoned. Gone from the version of me that begged for scraps of affection. Gone from the weight of her disappointment, her games, her guilt-tripping, her lies. I had disappeared like she asked, but not to hurt her, to find myself again. And I did. That was the best birthday gift I never planned. Ending note for Reddit. So yeah, she told me what she wanted for her birthday. She wanted me to disappear. So I did. And in doing so, I finally became whole.